Okay, today we're going to move into solving rational equations. And you're going to know a problem is going to be one that you have to solve, because when you look at it, you will notice that it has an equal sign in it. So no matter how many fractions there are in the problem, you will notice that it has some kind of equal sign in it. And whenever you see that, that will tell you that you are going to be solving. Up here we have the steps for solving. So you still want to start out kind of like when we did with adding or subtracting. You want to factor GCF the denominators. You want to list your LCD and restrictions. Then you're going to multiply each fraction by the LCD. And then you're going to use techniques you already know to help you solve. And then the fifth and last step is you have to make sure that your answer is not extraneous, which means you have to make sure that your answer is not on our restriction list. So those are kind of the steps, and we'll be talking about those as we are working through each one of these questions that we're going to work out today. So if I look at the first one, if I look at the denominator, I can't do anything with x plus 1, no GCF, no factoring. 4x plus 5, same thing, no GCF, no factoring. So then we're just going to come over here and we're just going to list out the LCD. And I would say the LCD has to be both of the denominators because they don't share anything, so they're both uncommon, so you just have to list both of them out. And then your restrictions. For the first parentheses, x could not equal -1. And the second parentheses, you have to remember on this one, besides just switching the sign for the -5, if there is a coefficient in front of the x, you have to divide that. So you would say -5/4. Now, if you're not sure, sidebar, I'll go way over here to the side of the paper. Remember we talked about you could take it and you could pretend like you set it equal to 0. And then you could be like, oh, I would subtract the 5 over, and then I would have to divide by 4, and that would give me -5/4. All right. So then the next step was to multiply each fraction by the entire LCD. So I'm going to take my first fraction here, and then I'm going to multiply that by the entire LCD. So I'm going to multiply that by x plus 1 and 4x plus 5. And then equals, and then we're going to take the second fraction and do the same thing. We're going to multiply that by the entire LCD. Okay, now that I have that set up, I can be like, oh, look here, on the first fraction, when I'm multiplying, I can cross cancel, and I see an x plus 1 and an x plus 1, so they cross cancel. And I'm left with 3 times 4x plus 5. On the second fraction, oh, look here, I can also cross cancel. I can cancel out 4x plus 5 and 4x plus 5, so I'm left with 9 parentheses x plus 1. Then I would distribute, so that would give me 12x plus 15 equals 9x plus 9. And then we're going to move things around. So I'm going to move my my x to the left. So I would subtract my x, my 9x, So that will give me 3x. And then I would move the plane number. Let me switch colors here. Thought I switched colors. So I'm going to move my 15 by subtracting it over to the other side. So then I have 3x equals -6. And then if I divide, I get x to equal -2. And then what I want to do is I want to check and see, is -2 on my restriction list? It is not, so my answer is good to go. But if it was on my restriction list, then I would just cross it off and say this problem has no solution. Now, here's some good news. I can shorten this problem up a little bit for you here. This middle step here where you multiply everything by the LCD, okay, the reason you do that is so that you notice the fraction goes away. But if you can just remember when you're solving, the fraction goes away, technically all you're doing is you are multiplying this by whatever it's missing from the LCD, because the first fraction was missing the 4x plus 5, and that's all I did was take the top times 4x plus 5. So you don't have to multiply by the entire LCD if you can just remember that the denominators will go away when you're solving. Okay, so on the second one, oh, look, we finally get a denominator we can break down. So on the first one, I can take out a 2 as my GCF. So 2 parentheses x minus 1. And then the second denominator, this is difference of squares. So I'm going to factor that into 2 parentheses, x minus 1, x plus 1. Then I should be able to list my LCD. And x minus 1 is shared, so I write it down one time. X plus 1 is not shared, and the 2 is also not shared. For my restriction, x cannot equal +1, -1. And for the 2 does not have a variable with it, so do not count that in the restriction. So please do not put a 0 in the restriction because it does not have a variable with it. Okay, so now we're going to try to go faster without writing each fraction times the LCD. We're just going to go with what it's missing. So on the first fraction, it is missing what from the LCD? So it has the 2, it has the x minus 1, so it's missing the x plus 1. So I'm going to take 5 times x plus 1 equals, and the second side, what is it missing from the LCD? The 2. So I'm going to take 15 times 2. So distribute, and I get 5x plus 5 equals, multiply 30. Subtract the 5 over, so 5x equals 25, x equals 5, and then check, is 5 on my restriction list? No, so then my answer is good to go. Okay, so let's go try another one. Okay, the only denominator I can break down on this problem is the middle one. And it starts with a 1x squared, so I can fast factor this one. So what multiplies for 6 that adds for 5? And hopefully everybody's thinking, oh, I know. That would be a 3 and a 2. So then I'm going to have x plus 2 and x plus 3. So then my LCD, I would say x plus 2 is shared, so write it down once. And x plus 3 is also shared, so write it down once. And then my restriction, x cannot equal -2, and -3. So what is the first fraction? If you look at its denominator, what is it missing from the LCD? And it is missing x plus 3. So I'm going to take x times x plus 3. The middle one is not missing anything. It has the entire LCD, so don't multiply that by anything. So leave the top, leave that 2 alone. Equals, and then the third fraction, it is missing x plus 2 from the LCD. So we're going to take 5 times x plus 2. So we're going to distribute. So x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 5x squared. I'm sorry, 5x, no squared, plus 10. Now when you look at this equation, you notice that you should have an x squared. So that means we're going to have to end up factoring. And if we're going to end up factoring, we need all terms on the same side before we can factor. And we need to make sure that our x squared is always positive. So when you're moving things around, make sure you're always moving it to where x squared is positive. So then I am going to take this 5x and subtract it over. And then I am going to take this positive 10 and I'm also going to subtract it over. Make sure you're lining them up with its like terms. Whoa, paper, hold on here. We're going a little crazy, sorry about that. And then we have x squared. And then 3x minus 5x is negative 2x. 2 minus 10 is negative 8. Equals, and then those cancel, so 0. So now we can fast factor because it's a 1x squared. So what multiplies for negative 8? That adds for negative 2. And hopefully everybody's thinking, oh, negative 4 and a positive 2. So you should have x minus 4 and x plus 2. Remember, when you're solving, you're going to take each parentheses and set it equal to 0. So then my solving answers are a positive 4 and a negative 2. So now I have to remember to check these against my restriction list. And when you check these against the restriction list, you should notice that one of these answers is on the restriction list. And hopefully you're going to say, oh, look here, negative 2 is on the restriction list, so negative 2 cannot count, so I'm going to strike through that one. So the only one that I will accept is positive 4. So that's the only answer. The other one does not count. Okay, so the next one looks like the only denominator I can break down is x squared minus 16. That is difference of 2 squares. So I would factor that one into 2 parentheses. So then I'm going to, sorry, the paper keeps moving. So then I'm going to go x minus 4x plus 4. Then we can list out our LCD. And x minus 4 is shared. X plus 4 is also shared. So you can write each one of those down once. Restriction. X cannot equal positive 4 and negative 4. The first fraction, it is missing the x plus 4. So I'm going to take x times x plus 4. The second fraction is missing the x minus 4. So I'm going to take 2x times x minus 4. And the third fraction is not missing anything, so I'm going to leave the 15 alone. So distribute, distribute. So that's going to give me x squared plus 4x plus 2x squared minus 8x equals 15. Then I'm going to combine my like terms. So 3x squared minus 4x equals 15. And remember, before you can factor, you need all terms on the same side. So I'm going to take the 15 and move it over. So 3x squared minus 4x minus 15 equals 0. Okay, this does not have a GCF, and it does not start with 1x squared. So this one is long factoring. So we're going to make the x. So then a times c, so 3 times negative 15 is negative 45. And b is negative 4. So what multiplies for negative 45? That adds for negative 4. So that would be negative 9 and positive 5. So now we're going to make our box. So we're going to put a, which is 3x squared, then negative 9x, 5x, and c, which is negative 15. Okay, then if I look up and down, 3 and 5 don't have a number in common, but they have an x. Switch to multiplying, so that would be 3x. Then on top, 3x times negative 3. And then x times 5. So we're looking at x minus 3 and 3x plus 5 equals 0. And then remember, you can set each parentheses equal to 0 to solve it. So x equals 3. 3 is not on the restriction list, so that's good. For this one, you're going to move the 5 over and it becomes negative, and then you're going to divide by 3, so you have negative 5/3, and that is also not on the restriction list, so you are good to go. So both of those answers check out and you are done.